Hello, everyone. Welcome
To what is this called?
I don't know. I'm so used to doing our intro, welcome to Cataloging Cocktails, but this is welcome to the Data Rant, the Friday Data Rant.
With beers and not beers and BS, but you know how to think about it. But we're not BS here.
Ones and beers and beers and I don't know.
Anyways,
Rants. It's Friday Rants.
okay.
So,
What's on your mind? All right, just right now we're starting to go. What we were already ranting on.
we already started ranting on something.
On skills.
we jumped the gun.
MCP.
So this is interesting because I'm seeing a trend now of a few people talking about this, and I'll call out two people. One's Eric Baroda, another is Sanjeev Mohan, that have brought up this idea of MCP versus skills. So for the last, I want to say 6 to 12 months, MCP has been very, very popular as this is the way that we're going to expose contextual action from tools, right? From different software and apps. But now there's a more recent trend, which is saying, or a hot take that's starting to become less of a hot take because it's a lot of people saying it now. MCP is gonna start to fade. A couple of people are saying MCP is dead. Oh my God, fuck! Stop saying this. Blah is dead. Please, MCP is not dead. It's growing like crazy. But they're saying, okay, MCP is not the thing. Really, skills are the thing. You're going to upload and add skills or have skill marketplaces that are directly incorporated into Anthropic, right? They have their Claude skills, right? Or you've got the OpenAI GPT skills, right? Because it's faster, because it's easier, because the path to something that's smart and usable and trusted is faster. It's faster.
Yeah, just lower the entry barrier and it's less friction to start off.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, sure. I know that even at ServiceNow, we use a lot of Claude skills. There's a bunch of them that are pretty popular right now internally. But then even in Eric's post, he talks about how, it'd be nice to have more interoperability and standardization amongst skills. And it's okay, well, that's obviously the point of MCP is to be standard, to have a standard interface to be able to interact with different applications via AI. So we were ranting just before this, the pendulum, it's constantly swinging. It's easy versus repeatable. Easy versus interoperable.
That's a good point. But the interoperable and reusable is less easy. Right? There's a little bit more work to be done, but because you do this all the work, then it ends up being repeatable. It's something you can actually go trust more. If I just want to get something cool off and running and do it, yes. I think everybody's been looking at, even if you were literally under the rock and you didn't want to go pay attention to any AI stuff this weekend, somehow it came to you about all this open clause stuff. It's just that. It was so easy that all this shit can happen.
It's just that MCP is not that hard. Yeah. And so it's not like you're saying
are you going to get an old man rant and sort of say that that people are too lazy now? This next generation is too lazy.
Maybe because we're not saying you need to build some complicated master solution or something like that. It's MCP server. You can make an MCP server in an afternoon using Claude code, So anyways, I don't know. You have any thoughts on that?
I just pendulum swinging. This is, I think that's probably another T-shirt. Pendulum swinging.
The pendulum swings.
Oh yeah. So we'll see what happens.
In small print, it'll be I'm old. I'm an old data man.
All right.
Anyways, I'm curious about, for those who are listening, have you played around with MCP? Have you played around with skills? What's your take? Is MCP dead? Or, my personal thing is I think skills are easy. You're going to see a proliferation of skills. But MCP is alive and well, and I know some folks who are involved very closely with the MCP spec, including one of our coworkers, Sugant, and MCP is going to keep evolving.
Yeah.
And so I say don't sleep on MCP. I think it's going to continue to grow like crazy, and it's growing faster than A2A. I think MCP use cases are more highly proliferated. So.
And I think it also goes back to what are you trying to go do at what levels? It's something cool and fun, more consumer versus like, oh no, this needs to be well thought out because it's going to our company or enterprise, right?
Right,
Customers
exactly.
can have a bigger implication. So
Yeah.
you have to have governance, all that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like a skill is probably good for like, oh, you want to create a PowerPoint. Okay, a PowerPoint skill. Okay, that makes sense, right? You want to access a database. I don't know if you're going to have like a database skill. You use an MCP server. So, anyways, it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves.
all right. What else? So we okay.
Yeah.
So we
You kick this one off.
no. The other one is the whole yes, context graph, context, all that stuff. But I want to combine it with something else, which is decisions.
Mhm.
And actually, I want to call out somebody who I finally met today. So David Bidsley, a Gartner analyst, but actually
He posts a lot on
He posts
LinkedIn,
a lot on LinkedIn. I really love it because he's really, really generous with everything that he's thinking about, right? So, and actually, it's really very thought provoking. Thinking about it, like really makes us think more about it. Especially this whole decision intelligence platform stuff. And one of the stuff that I find interesting around this is that it has been like somewhat abstract for me for so long. All this like dealing with decisions, but if I zoom out and I'm seeing all this conversation about decision intelligence platforms, and all this stuff about context graphs, and you think about ontologies, and you add in the knowledge graph and stuff. It's really people now realizing that we need to start codifying our knowledge, and that knowledge can be seen in so many different aspects. It can be all the way from like a basic schema to adding business rules, constraints, adding now what is our decisions, how do we write these decisions, what is the business processing side, and people realizing, well, we need to turn this into something code, something that we can actually go operate, because before we don't even treat it as it's still in our heads or in documents or whatever. And I think that's the shift that's happening. So there's so many threads happening, but at the end, if I zoom out, it's like, oh, it goes back to what we've talked about years ago, right? We live in a data first world, we're shifting to a knowledge first world. And we need to have a shift to knowledge first world. All of this is for me just a manifestation that we are shifting towards that knowledge first world, where it's we always remember people first,
relationships first, context first,
right?
Yeah.
We should find a talk that we did about this stuff a long.
Yeah, it was like 2021 or something like that.
I remember this was early in the pandemic that both of us were able to escape for a weekend. We went to some.
Went to like Fredericksburg or something.
We could let's go out.
We were like drinking wine and talking about like how's the world gonna adjust in the age
wanted to get
of
out of
AI?
our.
We left with knowledge first. That was the
That was the thing.
takeaway.
Right,
That was
yeah.
good.
Um,
But yeah, so David Pidsley, right? He's been posting a lot about like one of the central theses that he has is it's not just about the data. Like we're kind of leaving this 15-year period
we need to be data driven.
of like you got to be data driven, right? Data culture, data literacy, right? It's all about the data. And he says that we're going to shift to a new D, and that new D is decision. We have to be a decision-first organization. We need to have clear decision-making. We have clear decision lineage, understanding of our decisions, and the outcomes and the impact of the decisions. Right?
And
so it's
how
all about the decisions.
And it's actually defining how you make the decisions. And for some things, they're going to be well-defined. And for other things, you probably have to go discover how that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've actually keep track of all of these decisions, then you actually have the lineage to be able to understand
Right.
what decision, what is the impact, and then later how to improve things if you need it. Right?
And in this world of decisions, right, this is not some newfangled idea. There has been a space around for really decades now, which is decision intelligence. And decision intelligence tools, it's not necessarily kind of the sexiest space ever, right? There's some newer players in it, but it's a space that's been around for a while, and it's the quintessential examples are like you need to decide whether or not you're going to give somebody a mortgage, right? And like there's a set of rules. There's a couple of steps that are maybe a little more machine learning oriented. You've got like FICO scores and things like that. So like there's a very rich, complicated, but ultimately, although there might be some non-deterministic steps, it's a mostly deterministic process that results in should I grant you a mortgage or not, and what are the conditions of that mortgage. Another example is airline upgrades, right? Like how do I know whether or not I should offer Juan Cicada immediate upgrade because he deserves it.
I will
right?
tell you on United right now what happens if you actually have high status, you don't get offers for it. if not, that would have a reverse engineer. Like if you don't have a status, you actually get better offers than if you have a status.
So secretly, Juan wants to understand decision intelligence so he can maximize his upgrades more. But so decision intelligence is the space that's been around for a while, right? And today now we're talking about things like context graphs, and it's all about the decision traces. You got to understand how was the decision supposed to be, but then what actually happened? What was the actual decision, right? And
actually how the agent itself, I think that's the distinction here, is that there is like a lot of the conversation about the context graph is like this is like the output of what an agent is doing. But I think there's also what we need to understand, it's like, well, there's still kind of call it the quote unquote legacy world, which is how everybody else is working. Like I think that's a part that we really want to understand today. I mean, I was talking to another company that they're like, well, if we need to go we want to understand what is the incentives, for example, in procurement, and what decisions they make for that. But that decision, and they're like, wait, I have an incentive, I did great, decision's been made, perfect. But that decision is going to affect somebody else's process that they're doing and the decisions they need to go make. So now, for example, in the warehouse and logistics, they're like, wait, procurement did a great job, but now what you just did is that you just purchased a bunch of stuff early on. Like now I have to go hold all this stuff that you ordered because you ordered for more time to get a discount, whatever. I was not planning for that stuff, and I find that after the fact, right? So these are all the decision traces, and first of all, it's like we don't even know how these things get connected today, right? Somebody knows after the fact when they're like, here's your job order that you have to go work on. Like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Well, and what's complicated about analyzing these, both designing and analyzing what actually happened around these decisions, is that even though you want these decisions to happen in first of all, a structured process, and second of all, in a structured data and a structured system, oftentimes these exceptions happen outside of the system. And a lot of times they're unstructured in nature. And if you have imagine you're omniscient, you're this omniscient God, right? And you see all that happened related to something. Then you might find at 10:30 p.m., somebody sent a Teams message to the director of mortgages, and he said, just go ahead and grant it. In Teams, right? And that was what overrode the decision, right? And that's the kind of stuff that's like, oh wow, we need to somehow capture all this context somehow.
I sometimes think that we're now thinking about a lot of edge cases and boiling the ocean around this stuff. I think there's so now we should
so now
we should be tracking every single conversation, because maybe we just jump on Zoom and we had a conversation for 30 minutes, and then the result of the conversation is when we make a decision. So what am I supposed to I guess technically that's what we should be able to do, but I think that is the juice worth the squeeze.
So I think where the juice can be worth the squeeze is if it's not just about the exceptions, but helping you understand the decisions overall in the first place. Because then it's about looking at trends of how decisions have been made over time, including exceptions, and how often do those exceptions happen, right? So I think that's interesting, because now you're looking at it from more of a global perspective. If you just want to focus on the exceptions, I mean, they're exceptions. Like, they don't happen often enough for you to be worth all your time, right? But if you're looking at the bigger picture, I think that's interesting.
So there's a lot. I'm really curious what's going to come out of this, because I don't know if it's so much little noise that it's going to build up. It's actually going to be a big shift and something brand new and wow, or everybody's talking about it and then it's like, yeah, we're doing that, and it's becoming the features. I think that's kind of my whole point, that a lot of this is going to be features of these decision intelligence platforms. It's going to be features of these action platforms or these analytic. I don't know. I think that's where we're going to go see what happens. Now, of course, some people, especially in the startup and the VC space, like, no, this is a brand new platform. We're going to do it. Like, well, for that to be to really be the gigantic kind of opportunity, that means that you have to start getting embedded in all organizations. And I think who has the advantage of that is all the platforms that are already embedded in that.
The bigger platform players.
So, right, all the hyperscalers, all the gigantic platforms that are already embedded, and for them, it's like, yeah, new features. Now, Will they be able to innovate fast enough? And again, this is pendulum swings all the time. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea. I mean, clearly, 2026 is going to be the year of context. I think that's pretty clear right now. And is context, does every enterprise need to establish a context layer? Yes. Do they need to treat knowledge and context as first-class citizens? Yes.
By the way, this is already a huge win because this is shit that I've been trying to say for over a decade.
So 2 years ago, people weren't saying this, right?
No.
Like they were saying AI is going to eat the world, right? And the reality is like, oh shit, just kidding. It needs context, right? So, I mean, context is going to be a thing, and I think that we're getting this whole context graph debate, whether you like it or not, is I think helping us refine our language around what kinds of context graphs that we're talking about. Right, like there's decisions and decision traces. That's like one kind of context, right? There's people, there's your organization and things like that. There's also this concept of, and I've seen, some different groups talking about this, a personal graph, which is that there's stuff about you personally as you've engaged with something that are your preferences. Some of it's more unstructured, like your preferences or your communication. Some of it's more structured, like what is Juan Cicada allowed to do? What are your access control, permissions, right? That's more structured information. So, personal graphs, organizational graphs, global graphs,
I mean, each one of these are their own different context
scales.
So here's what's interesting is that, like, recently, I think this week or the last 2 weeks, OpenAI had a whole thing that they described. I mean, Gleam just literally today published something around this stuff.
Yeah. Everybody's kind of publishing what's their architecture around.
But what's interesting is that this doesn't just happen overnight. Like, there is work to be done. And I think that's the most important aspect about this. People are realizing we need to, yes, context is king, we need queen, we need to go treat this as a first-class citizen. But this doesn't just magically come out of anywhere. There is no magic wand. People have been trying the magic wand and realize, oh wait, there's work that needs to be done around this stuff. So for me, that's a big. What I'm really excited about is that people are realizing, yes, we need to go treat knowledge as a first-class citizen. It's a social, technical phenomenon we need to go deal with. We can go automate some stuff, but people need to be involved. And I think we're right now in the really excited phase. And I think very quickly, it's going to kind of like, how do you build this stuff? And like, okay, I can give you a demo, but all right, I want to go test this on my stuff. All right, what do I connect to get my context in there? Fill in this form, and then it's kind of like you're going to connect to what system.
Yeah, how are we going to capture all the context?
Anyway,
well, and you know what? Here's an interesting problem though that we're going to run into, which is. Do data leaders care about context? I mean, obviously, like
this is legal. Okay,
people that
this is a good one. So
we're talking about.
All right, let's go to
this. Vendors want you to care about context, right? Like,
okay,
but like,
perfect.
Is a chief data officer like? What conversation are we having where they're like, is the chief data officer? Are they waking up in the middle of the night being like, I have a context problem?
Yeah. So this brings up like another rant.
They do, but like,
but companies don't have a data problem. They don't have really. I mean, they think they do have an AI problem, but the AI problem is not really their focus. Like, they have a work problem. I just need to get our work done. I need to get more work done. I need to be more efficient with the way I get work done. Like, that's what organizations are trying to go do. How do I do more with less? It's a work problem. So the question is, what do we do such that we can be more effective with the work that needs to be done? So first of all, that begs the question is, where does that work happen today? So I think this is the question that I think every organization right now, like, you should be thinking, where do I do my work? Right? I'm not going to, without naming vendors or anything, like, just think about where does your employees, they wake up, they go to work, like, where do they sign in? What do they go do?
Log into their laptop.
What are they going to do?
Where are they operating?
Stuff, right? Yeah. And what is the work they need to go do? And what is the stuff that they need so the work can be better? And so I've been talking to a bunch of companies, and you too, but like, what I've been kind of really distilling things is like, think like 4 aspects about it. One, there needs to be more data. Yes, we need to bring more data to the work to be done things, right? So because people are now taking their work down to the data, I have to go to this place or swivel chairing. I think it's all about like. Then there's actually like the insights that people do. Oh, we identified this interesting new thing. Okay, but don't tell me I have to go somewhere else to a dashboard to realize that. Tell me, put that to where the work is. And there's also the governance aspect of it, like to make sure that you're doing the right work and so forth. And I think that's kind of the what I'm seeing now. People is like, where you're doing work, and to do that work, I need data. So do I need to go out and reach out to data other places? Can I bring that in? Do I context? Do I have all the context to that work? Do I need to go to? Does that context live somewhere else? How do I bring it to my work is? The insights, do I go to the dashboard somewhere else, where I bring the results of those dashboards insights to where the work is happening? And then the governance, making sure that I'm like keeping track of what's happening, that I can do things faster and safely. So that's kind of been a pattern that I'm seeing with folks. I don't know. What have you been seeing? What is?
No, I think that resonates with me as well. So you're talking about data, knowledge, and governance, essentially, is these sort of three tenets to how things are evolving in terms of how people need to manage context. Essentially, this all kind of ties back to this context problem. You need the right data with the right knowledge, with the right governance. I think one thing I'll layer on is sort of a maturity model, because I think that people are trying to figure out how to spend their time. What am I supposed to be? What is my job right now? As like a data architect or a data leader, like what am I trying to do right now? Obviously you're trying to drive results and ROI and outcomes and things like that, right? That's kind of one side of it. The other side of it is you're trying to create, what we've called the enterprise brain within the organization, because AI is coming in, but you need to make sure that it's safe, effective, precise, and impactful. And I'll kind of say that I see kind of three steps from companies that we're talking to that it's emerging. That if you're sort of on your AI readiness journey or whatever you want to call it, right? The first step is more like foundation or just basic kind of readiness, which is more around like, okay, I need to know the data and knowledge that exists. So there's a baseline level of discovery. And then there's pick a use case that is impactful and actually drive what you said, the data, knowledge, and governance around that one particular use case, get it into production, make it valuable.
And I think this is different from like people are like, oh, go invest in your foundations, and your foundations is your first step in your maturity. Like, no, because if
there's some foundations,
but if you only do foundations, you're actually not delivering any value right there. And I think it goes back to like we posted the episode today with Juan Goricho, where he talked about like you got to do this in slices. So you take a slice of a use case, you take one use case, right? You take a slice of the little fundamentals you want to go do, a slice of data, a slice of knowledge, a slice of the insights, a slice of the governance to go do that, and just prioritize it.
You need your foundation. So I don't want to say you don't need your foundation, but here's an analogy, right? That's your like umbrella insurance policy. Is your foundation. You're not going to become a rich person with insurance, right? But you need it. It's very important, right? But where are you going to make all your money? You're going to make it from your investments, right? And so these use cases, these slices are your investments. That's where you're going to make your money.
I wonder how many people are listening right now and saying, I don't have an umbrella insurance.
Hey, children, buy insurance. Every once in a while, my wife's like, well, how much of insurance policy do you have again? I'm like, why do you ask? I do have life insurance. But your investments are where you're going to make your money, right? So readiness is important. But then in this AI age, you want to start to achieve repeatability. And that's where really, as you're starting to move to repeatability, it's not about a single use case. It's about, you want to create a use case factory, right? And in that, things like building out your knowledge graph, building out your context layer, becomes super valuable, because then it allows 1 + 1 to be greater than 2 from a value perspective, but 1 + 1 to be less than 2 from an investment perspective, from a time perspective. You're getting increasing returns.
So that's when you start
the flywheel,
the repeatability right there, the reusability.
Yep. And this matters so much in the world of AI. Like, I think it was a little less clear pre-AI. It's very clear now in the world of AI. And then the third stage is scale, right? When you get to this state where you've got this repeatable layer, now you're able to really unlock more of these, like autonomous IT, autonomous customer management, autonomous support, autonomous this, autonomous that, right? Autonomous data management, right? Then you can unlock those things because you have this repeatable engine. So I think the companies are really starting to think more in this way. Mm-hmm. When in the past it was, what was maturity in the past? It was really more about like, did we check all the boxes on sort of the data management checklist or something like that, where now it's really, there's a new, I think, framing on everything.
I think they at the end of the day, it's all obvious. You say the obvious over and over again. The quick wins, right? So do something small, start small, think big type of thing, right? So that first level maturity here is actually focus on deliver one. And the second is where you can now deliver a handful with the investment of one. So this is, and then the third one is, I kind of figure out my muscle. Like this stuff is just now kind of going in autonomous. That's kind of
yeah. By then, now you actually have the enterprise brand in place. How many people have achieved this scaled motion? I think nobody.
But I think that's the way.
But that's the North Star we're heading towards.
I like it.
Some people are establishing.
I have to think about is it what else? Is it really these 3 steps? I know 3 is too little, 4 is too much, but is there something else? Or
3 is the perfect number.
No, all right. So. Anything else?
I don't know. Is there anything else we're forgetting?
We'll be in New York next week. For folks who are listening, we're gonna be somewhere Wednesday. We'll post it on LinkedIn. Wednesday happy hour.
Yep. So come hang out with us in New York City.
It's gonna be very direct. We'll be in the Hudson Yard. That's where our offices are. So probably keep it easy.
Yeah, that'll be easy.
So yeah.
And for those who are football fans, enjoy the Super Bowl.
Sunday will be a fun day.
Go Seahawks.
I don't care.
One doesn't care.
I don't. All right. All right, and then I don't know if we'll do this next Friday. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone.